This is the live podcast broadcast of This Week in Science. We're back once again to fill your heads with science, but this is the pre-show where I remind everybody that this is live and not edited, so there may be blips and blurps and burps and stuff, but hopefully those will get edited out for the real show. The real show is this real show. I mean, the podcast that gets edited by Rachel. Wonderful Rachel. Let's see. So before we get started, hit the likes, the subscribes, share it with your friends. Let's beat those algorithms by making everybody know that the show is on and that you are here and that you'd love to have other people come and join us. Wouldn't that be great? We'd like it too. Am I missing anything else? I don't think so. You ready to start the show, Justin?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Welcome, everyone. Starting the show in 3, 2. This is TWIS. This Week in Science, episode number 947, recorded on Wednesday, October 11th, 2023. What's in your head, zombie? Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Kiki, and tonight we will fill your heads with cyber hands, coin flips, and friendly female frogs. But first...
Disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. The characteristics of violence are empathetic to any cause, and the tactics in any conflict are quickly shared by enemies. It is an agreement of the justified, the righteous, and the vindicated mindsets, all encouraging conflict, all escalating destructive actions. And while no people on earth harbor hatred above safety, wish death upon a perceived enemy above the health of their own loved ones, conflict can be placed at any doorstep. Bombs can fall on homes, schools, places of worship. Men with guns will kill civilians, unintentionally or without care. The justified, the righteous, and the vindicated mindsets condemn the destructive actions of the other and legitimize their own. The fate of any people depends on the actions of leaders, the mindsets of those in charge, the tactics they use, whether it is to protect the people or not. When leaders target the people, their own or of another nation, when they slaughter the innocent to further a cause, they invite reprisal, retaliation, and vengeance upon their own people, upon themselves, intentionally and without care. History is full of examples of how conflicts begin and hard lessons on how they end. And while the characteristics of violence are empathetic to any cause, the characteristics of empathy are not. And neither is This Week in Science. Coming up next.
I've got the kind of mind that can't get enough. I want to learn everything. I want to fill it all up with new discoveries that happen every day of the week. There's only one place to go to find the knowledge I seek. I want to know what's happening. What's happening? What's happening this week in science? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening this week in science?
Good science to you, Kiki.
And a good science to you too, Justin, and everyone out there. Welcome to another episode of This Week in Science. And I know there are many people now who are grieving and who are concerned and who are looking at the news with desolation. And there's a hard time. Our Earth and our humanity has been continuing through it for a while, and it seems like it's going to keep on going. But we hope that TWIS with science and a bit of optimism and fun can bring you a little bright spot in your day, in your week. And we are glad that you are here with us right now. And our hearts are with all of those and with you out there. Starting this week off with the science. I've got so much. I brought stories about colors and smells, birds galore, a few coin flips, some sourdough bread, and I don't know, maybe some Bennu stuff. I don't know, some fun stuff in there.
What was the last one?
Some Bennu.
I don't know what that
Bennu.
is.
Yes,
I
you
have
do.
no-
You
I do?
know Bennu. You know Bennu. You know Bennu. You do. Okay,
Oh,
what do you
I
have
will-
for this show?
I'm now just finding. We can't wait to find out what it is. I already know. I have got an update on an amazing prosthetic hand. How climate change has now finally gone too far.
Oh no.
Might be affecting future beer. CDC study on depression accidentally finds smoking isn't all that bad.
You're just looking for rationales. Okay, keep going.
No, it's one of those things where like you go through the study, you're like, oh, okay, they found all this interesting stuff, and you're like, wait a second, look at what is that doing there? It's kind of they don't mention it, but I will.
Okay.
And then, well, how to tell when a frog isn't into you?
Okay.
It doesn't come up that often, but
I don't ask the frogs if they're into me that often, but I guess, if I were that prince down by the pond, and I were trying to find out, hey, Princess Frog, you into me? And she's like, no, turn into a frog and be with me. And then she's like, haha, joke's on you. I'm going to be a princess again. So anyway, okay. I think that was a Shrek movie, but we're moving on.
In that scenario, you found the frog that had been turned by a witch from a royal child into the frog, and you're like, oh, this is my prince, this is my chance, and you kiss the frog, and then it turned out to be the princess, and then you're like, that close.
I almost found the frog of my dreams. As we jump into the show here, I want to remind you all that you can subscribe to This Week in Science as a podcast. All places podcasts are found pretty much. Look for This Week in Science, TWIS. We are also live streaming, and those videos are also available on the YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch platforms. We do Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Pacific time. About is when we regularly start. And if all this is just a lot, go to our website, twis.org. That's where we have show notes and links to things, and you can, anyway, lots of information there. Let's do some talking.
Yeah.
You ready for the science?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. First up tonight on my list of things to discuss is Asteroid Bennu's sample return. And yeah, last week we talked about NASA's mission and how they had worked to get a craft, to the OSIRIS-Rex, to go to this asteroid and boop it and grab some samples and then come back, and it landed in Utah in the desert, and then they took it to JPL and anyway, they've been at Johnson Space Center in Houston. That's where they are. And they have been taking a look at it very carefully because they don't want to contaminate any of the samples. But they noticed when they first opened it up that there was a layer of a very dark looking sooty material. And they were like, ooh, that's interesting. And so, of course, immediately they were like, let's take extra care because we don't want to contaminate that. And we can look at that right away. And so they've been peeking at it. And so they released information this week that they took what they call a quote-unquote quick look. It's an analysis of this material with scanning electron microscope, infrared measurements, X-ray diffraction, chemical element analysis, and also X-ray computed tomography to produce a 3D computer model of one of the particles. What do you think they found in this initial look in the dust and rocks of an asteroid that we call Bennu? What do you
A lucky penny?
No lucky pennies. They found carbon and water.
Water. Oh, wow.
Yes, carbon and water. So, the researchers are very
Hey,
excited
that's
about
what
this.
people are mostly made out of, isn't it?
Yeah, organic material, exactly. And so this is that kind of gift that's going to keep giving. They're going to be looking at the samples for the next 2 years. They're going to be preserving at least 70% of the samples for future research because they know that we don't have all the technology now that we might need or, that might give us all the answers at some point in the future. And somebody might come up with a better question to ask at some point in the future. So NASA is going to be sharing some of these bits of regolith with other agencies, JAXA, the Canadian Space Agency, probably with the ESA as well. More than 200 scientists around the globe are going to be looking at it. And it's very exciting that the dust and rocks, and this is just the stuff that they like that you it's the stuff that you want to sweep out of the way that is in the front of your fireplace or whatever. It's not the stuff that's in the fireplace. It's the little bits and pieces of dust. And this has already given some very intriguing information about the prevalence of the things that make it possible for life to exist in our solar system.
I'm wondering what they're going to do at the end. Are they going to give, like they did with the moon rocks, and give a bunch of fake asteroid dust to diplomats? Are you aware of this story?
I had no idea, but that's really
like
funny.
They keep like the moon rocks that like we gifted to like all these different countries, or diplomats had encased in their offices, whatever.
Here I have Mars regolith simulant. I have a jar of it. It's simulated Mars regolith. I keep it close to me here.
Apparently they gave out a lot of fake moon rocks.
No wonder.
There's like more moon rocks in circulation than we brought back from the moon.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Anyway, this asteroid's exciting because it's 4.5 billion years old. The fact that it had all these building blocks means that, yay, solar system had all the stuff there in the beginning. And this is the biggest, they say the Bill Nelson, NASA administrator, says this is the biggest carbon-rich asteroid sample ever delivered to Earth, just based on these very, very premature analyses.
But of course, when Bill Nelson said it, he was like, it took 4 hours. He started, from the beginning of time, mankind has looked to the stars. But sometimes they weren't stars. They were meteorites. And meteorites come.
What?
Every time that man speaks, he rambles for like a half an hour or more before getting near the thing he was supposed to talk about.
Yeah, but
and there's somewhere in the background.
He's into awe and wonder. He's all right.
Every administrator at NASA has gone to some sort of HR training camp where they were supposed to learn how to talk like Carl Sagan, and none of them can do it. And it comes off always just like
none of them are Carl Sagan.
Cringy. Anyway, I'm glad I got to hear the short version from you.
You're welcome. Anyway, more work will be done.
Interesting still that it's 4.5 billion years old, because it's like the age of our planet.
Yep.
But, in that sense, the age our planet formed. So but does that mean like the stuff that was in our solar system formed at the same time as the planet? Like, that seems weird. It feels like it should be older. Like the stuff that made up the Earth should be older than the Earth. It shouldn't have just formed. No, granted, the Earth should be one thing for the time that it's been one thing. But
no, the formation of the Earth. So that's about the same time. There was all this stuff going on. Yeah.
Timelines in space sometimes don't add up as well as I would like.
Okay. Dense cloud of interstellar gas and dust. So the stuff is older, right? The cloud started congealing and going like, oh, we're going to be dust that lives together. And the dust attracted more dust. Cloudy, gassy. And then things started turning into clumpies and other things. and then boom, they're planetoids and planetesimals, and then crash, boom, and now asteroids and planets, and who knows what'll happen next.
So for the
That
audience who is
short history of the solar system by Dr.
for the audience
Kiki.
who's a little bit more advanced in their understanding of cosmology, this is actually how I need things explained, which is
I
why
did
Kiki's
it. I got
doing
it right.
for me. Yeah. I understood what clumpy things meant and what the Big Bang stuff was all. Now it's clear.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Tell me about the future of hands. Because
Well, this is
apparently
actually already here. It's not even the future. It's the now, the present.
Okay.
But it started, well, this story at least, starts 20 years ago with a farming accident where a Swedish woman lost a good part of her right arm, her hand, and well up the forearm. She survived, but endured some excruciating phantom limb pain. This is quoting here. I felt like I constantly had my hand in a meat grinder, which created a high level of stress, and I had to take high doses of various painkillers. Conventional prosthesis attaching things were uncomfortable, also because of where they were placed. They were unreliable, and they were of little use in her daily life. This changed when she received a bionic technology that allowed her to wear a much more functional prosthesis. So this one has a few differences over previous sort of just mechanical attachments. First of all, this is bone grafted into place. So there's a piece that gets probably a titanium ball that's porous, that is allowed for the bone that exists to graft onto it. So it has this base that if you are watching the video stream, shows the insertion of these sort of kind of look like posts that are coming out of the stubby bit of the forearm, and a prosthetic device that's going to attach to this. Now, the next portion of this is pretty intense. They took nerves that would have extended down the arm to the hand, and they attached them to these probes, these posts and probes. And so through a combination of a little bit of early AI stuff, but a lot of actual simulation training, where this was just plugged in to a computer that had a simulated hand, and by concentrating on manipulating that hand on the computer screen, it was sending signals that were actually connected to that hand down the arm, and that hand began to move. And then the prosthetic is attached, and that prosthetic device is actually very functional. So the interesting thing here, which probably could not have been predicted, but once it happens, makes totally sense. Like you can predict it retrospectively, was that her phantom pain has been severely reduced.
Right.
And of course, part of what the phantom pain is, it's the nerves that are supposed to be, that are connected to a part of the brain that is monitoring the hand is missing, and so these nerves are misfiring, they're miscommunicating, they don't know what's going on. By restoring the hand nerve connection, it seems to have reduced the phantom limb pain, because now there is a real, albeit bionic, hand in place. Some of there's a video out there of the sort of things that we're looking at here, pictures that we're looking at, that it shows some pretty amazing manipulations, like picking up a penny, which, prosthetic hand is not usually that level of functionality.
Right. The amount of sensory engagement it would have would be really impressive to be able to feel the penny. I have problems picking pennies up off of a table. So
So there's the skeletal attachment, which is one step. It solidly has a connection point that's integrated to the body, that's not rejected, and that is more comfortable. Secondly, there's this nerve and muscle reattachment that rearranges the source of motor control information to the prosthetic device. And yeah, according to this, it allows the user to carry out 80% of activities of daily life. There's also, I think, a footage of her operating zippers on a travel bag or something like this. Like the level of control is pretty amazing. And so is that, and still so is the, like, as much as it makes sense now that she's explaining that she's feeling less pain because the phantom limb is not as phantom and the nerves are connecting to activities again. It's still something that I don't know that could have been predicted. Another thing that they made an important conscious effort to do was to make the hand portion itself both repairable, so it's removable, repairable, as opposed to being totally connected to the thing all the time. It has a connection point, but it's also customizable, so that somebody could go, this hand is too big, this hand is too small. I don't like the color of the hand that you've given me. Can you give me a sixth
lobster
finger?
Claws.
I would like a
totally
sixth finger
different.
so that I can practice being like whatever it is. And in the video, the thing just sort of clamps on and then away it goes. Operational. Really ingenious level of prosthetic device.
And the number of people that this is going to be able to help is huge, just for the ability to navigate the world, to be able to do things that able-bodied people take for granted. I do wonder how long it took for her to learn how to use the prosthesis, what kind of training is involved in this kind of in this type of device. I know we are becoming more and more cyber day by day, right? We have all sorts of devices that we are implanting into our ears, into our eyes. But these prosthetic limbs are going to be very fascinating for all sorts of reasons.
And that's one of the things I thought was really interesting too, is that they showed somewhere in there a training session where the stub is sort of plugged in to basically look like through a USB to the computer, okay? And is connected then to the simulated hand on the screen. And because the controls of the prosthetic limb and the controls of the simulated hand can be indistinguishable, I mean, it's like your digital signal, whatever.
Yeah, right.
It translates. So you can do all sorts of training in a simulated environment. You don't have to always have the thing physically on to be engaged in training, which I thought was really fascinating, because that also means if you were talking about something like prosthetic legs, that you would be able to be bedridden and training before you had to go out and attempt a walk with the new leg, or so you could get so much training done
before
the physical ability to spend 6 hours a day on the new prosthetic leg or legs might be a barrier to that training. But if you could do that in a simulated environment, you could do the 6 hours a day.
And I could see this also. This is going to be the kind of surgery connecting the robotic limbs to the nervous system, right? The sensory nerves, the motor nerves for the hand, the leg, whatever area. Like, there are big nerve trunks, but then there are also little tiny nerves that are involved in some of the stuff going on. So is this going to be the job of neurosurgeons of the future, or is this going to be robotic surgery? Robotic surgeons making us cyber people, because there's so much more, accuracy that can be achieved with a robot than.
It's actually interesting you
than a
mention that,
human.
because the first time I encountered the titanium mesh bone grafting sort of device was a hip replacement. They were being designed for hip replacements, and there was a robot that was being trained to chisel out the area where this would be implanted in the leg to attach to the hip, because it was, trying to see if the robot would be more efficient than a human surgeon with a chisel.
Yeah, there are many things that.
That was a long time ago. So this technology,
Yep,
talk about talk about the future was yesterday. That titanium bone graft stuff has been around for over 30 years.
And it's even
so a
more
lot of what they're
advanced now.
using.
Yeah.
A lot of what
They're
they're
doing
using
things.
already exists. Just combining it now. They're just like,
It's no longer a coin toss as to whether or not something will work.
Huh?
Ah,
Is that a segue?
it is. So when you think of a coin toss, do you
Our
think of
segues
it?
are getting worse.
Never.
Mine are just silence. Mine are just like, oh, is it my turn for a story?
Shh.
And yours I pause that because I'm like,
Is this a segue? Is she trying to move on? What's happening right now?
20 years in the business and still haven't figured out how segues work. You're welcome.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Yes, so this is a story of coin flips. We use coin flips all the time, right? Choose who's going to start a game in football, soccer,
Start
whatever.
of every American football match.
People who don't understand probability think that they might win coin tosses or something. We learn in statistics and use coin tosses as an example of binary probability, that each flip has its own probability of a 50-50 result. So
yes, and
it's not like it changes every time you flip the coin.
No,
right?
It's always, I always win. Heads I win, tails you lose. Ready?
Well, there were some researchers who have published a paper on the archive.org preprint server, and it is compelling in its in what they came up with. There have been, over the years, people questioning that 50-50 probability of the coin flip and whether or not it really is 50-50. So these researchers found some work from 2007 that suggested that coins are more likely to land on the side that they start on than the other side. So because of the way coins are, if you flip a coin, it's going to go up and then come down again, and maybe not flip around so many times unless somebody is really skilled at making a coin flip around in the air. And that's what this team did. They tested a number of coins, really, 48 people flipping 350,757 coins minted in 46 countries, checking how many times the coin landed with the same side up that it was launched on. And they found that it's about even, but not quite. There's a slight bias. So it lands with the same side up as when it was launched 50.8% of the time. And there is individual variation between different coins. So the design of the coin actually impacts how many times it comes out heads or tails. So people who have been using weighted coins as, con artists for years to be able to con people out of various bets, they knew what was going on a long time ago. But anyway, the bias is slight. What they pretty much came up with is that if people actually were using coin tosses to determine an outcome, that people who know how this works might make more money than people who don't. If they give an example, 1,000 times of flipped, betting $1 each time with winning. So if you lose, it's $0. $2 if you win because you got the whole thing. You should, over 1,000 coin flips, win $19. So get on out there, everyone. Use the slight bias of the starting of the coin to help you out.
I had somebody do a double or nothing bet with me on coin flipping that started at it was for I don't know, $20. They just were a gambler. And I was just like, okay, fine. And then I won. And so they're like, oh, double or nothing. I was like, okay, fine. I didn't even want to gamble. I don't it's not my thing.
Is this one of those stories where you didn't want to gamble and then you won everything anyway?
Yeah, and I kept winning. No, I just insisted at somewhere. We'll just keep going till you win, so you can do the nothing. Because it was at some point I think the guy owed me $1,800 or something. I was like, okay, double or nothing. You're either gonna buy me a house or we'll just end it at that point.
When do we stop? When do you decide?
No, it was a crazy number of. I got 6 or 7 in a row or something like that. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, I find it fascinating that this, this pillar of probability and statistics that we've used for so long that, there's messing around with it. And I think that is kind of, that coins are impacted by physics. I mean, you can think of a coin toss as a Schrodinger cat kind of thing, and we can still use it as the 50-50 kind of example because of the independence of each toss, but it depends potentially on which side it started on. So maybe we should use a different method for how we choose who's going to start different games. Or
I think Arnlore has a point. What about aerodynamics? Aerodynamics is going to be part of it. You know what else is going to be make a big difference? Temperature and humidity also are going to. So we have to redo this study. We have to redo this study with variable humidities and variable temperatures and at variable altitudes and at variable stop it. It's fine. Yeah, for as far as unless somebody's actually trying to land a craft on the moon with coin flips, it's close enough.
Yeah,
it's fine.
And sometimes it depends on the people. That's what they say. They say here, the data revealed a substantial degree of between people variability in same side bias. Anyway.
Oh, I love that story because I feel like I've heard that study done,
but it's never been done really, which is great.
1,000 times, and I feel like half of the time they came up with one result, and the other half of the time they came up with the complete opposite.
But it really depended on the starting conditions, didn't it? Oh, I would like a beer, Justin. Tell me about the future of beer.
Wait till the show is over. And then, yes, climate change has gone too far. It is now threatening hops cultivation in Europe. The noble hops, the giver of beer bitterness, the sacred source of beer aroma and flavor, is at risk, according...
Wait, did you just say beer aroma?
Beer aroma?
Like beer aroma, but one word?
Oh, it's
beer
not
aroma.
Beer aroma. It's beer aroma.
Never. All right.
There's certain words you're not supposed to write. When you write them, you can get away with it. But then when you talk them, then it becomes really difficult.
Yeah.
Anyway. Anyway, hops, according to a study published in Nature Communications, this is in trouble. And it says here in the opening of this here, European varieties of hops are prized and used by brewers around the world, which I had to stop the story there, because nearly half of the world's hops are actually grown in the Pacific Northwest, over where you are right now in the United States. 70% of those are grown in one county in Washington State. And most of what they grow winds up in West Coast IPAs. And most of those get consumed. We have a lot of
IPAs here. Yeah.
Most of those West Coast IPAs get consumed along the West Coast of the United States. So they are the world's biggest hoppy beer consumers.
It's true. There's a lot of IPAs, and people really like their IPAs here. And there's the microbrews, and oh my goodness,
a lot of craft beer and a lot of really hoppy beer, and I love it. Okay. But the rising temperature and less rain taking place in Europe are reducing yields and the concentration of compounds that provide beer its refreshing tastes and tartness in Europe, which is a big deal because Europe already drinks egregiously low hopped beer. The profiles are terrible to the point where an American West Coast IPA lover cannot find a decent pint of beer in Europe.
I mean, unless you want a Pilsner or a Kolsch, or, there's some really great beers.
Or water, like at that point. Why not just drink water? What would be the difference? It's really it's like even the ones like you go to a brewery, you're like, I found a brewery. I found a craft brewery. They have an IPA. They have something they're calling a West Coast IPA. And then...
No. It's a lie.
It's not.
It's a whole lot of...
They used a quarter of the hops they needed to. A quarter of them. They don't understand it. They don't get it. They don't understand beer in Europe. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Anyway.
So they don't understand beer in Europe. All the hops are being grown in Washington.
But now the hops they're getting worse over here. The researchers observed a trend in analyzing data from 5 sites in the Czech Republic, Germany, Slovakia, which along with Poland are the primary hops growers in Europe. Germany alone is, I think, 32% of the world supply of hops. So if they go down, all hope is lost for Europe. Yields fell between 9.5 and 19.4% at 4 sites. And we're stable at a 5th. And this is comparing the last 20-ish years to a period 30 years before that. So the actual hops yields from where they're planted have dropped 10 to 20%. Meanwhile, the concentration of bitter compounds, alpha acids, within the hops decreased. Oh, no. Extrapolating the data, the researchers predict a drop in yield of between 4 and 18% more between, and the alpha acids could drop between 20 and 31% as temperatures rise and rainfall is impacted. So the horror of it all is that drought's expected to increase in Central and Southern Europe. It will be necessary to expand the area of aroma hops growing by 20% under the current production area to compensate for the decline, which is just trying to maintain the status quo, which again is pitifully low.
So it's going to mean fewer hops, which they're not necessarily using a lot of them already, but then it's less bitter hops, so it's milder beer flavors. Maybe people will be like, hey, I like these European IPAs all of a sudden who are not IPA drinkers.
Yeah.
The bitterness goes away. Suddenly more people like beer.
I have a feeling
I see only good news here.
I have a feeling like they won't even notice here. Like, how can you distinguish between the beer they make now and water? It's very difficult. So brewers can try to modify their methods, it says, to adapt to the reduced bitterness and hop switch. There is a solution. Look.
Okay.
The molecules that are required to make the hop aroma and the hop bitterness are able to be manufactured by biotechnology. Team in Berkeley did this. We talked about this 5-6 years ago. We can stop manufacturing all those life-saving drugs and enzymes and things and stuff. That concentrate on hop flavor.
We're going to concentrate on the yeast, the bacteria,
yeah,
and producing more of those alpha.
Producing, we'll fix a yeast up so it's producing the molecules, just like the Berkeley group did. Or maybe they've got their companies up and running now somewhere. Or we could just turn to them. If the brewing industry trusts the science, the future can be better with biotechnology. The future of beer in Europe can be better.
It could be.
I
think also though
they're not going to buy it from the United States because it's hay bales of the stuff you got to use to make beer. So it's not like it doesn't ship easy.
I mean, except in bottles like that have already
you can do
been
extract,
manufactured.
but
exporting.
if you just manufacture it at home.
But these kinds of maps we're seeing, wine is changing where it needs to go, beer is changing, like the hops. We're looking at climate change affecting where crops are going to be able to grow. Yeah. And I think bringing up these things like beer, coffee, wine, like wheat even, where is all the wheat going to come from? Like, where are we going to get all the food that we need as climate change advances? And if you can focus on things like beer or coffee, things that people really enjoy in their lives, maybe that's when people start to take notice and turn to solutions. So we're not going to think negatively about what's going to happen to beer. Washington State is probably going to continue to be pretty rained on.
Better.
So it'll
Better.
be, the hops will be great here. Either that or they're all moving to Canada.
Well, it's wild though that like, what is it? So 70% of 44%, and I'm not good at math, but I think that's about 30%-ish of the world's hop supply is from one county in Washington.
That's pretty incredible.
So that microclimate, whatever that is, needs to not change. Very important.
It's very important. Speaking of ecosystems that change, let's talk about sourdough starters. Yeah.
What is a sourdough starter, by the way?
You just leaned in like, what?
Well, because it's one of those things, I get it. It's like, is it a yeast or just bacteria? Or like, what is a sourdough starter? I actually don't know. I know it's some living thing.
It is. It is a
got really into during the pandemic.
It's not just during the pandemic. People have sourdough starters that are generations old. They're
like people generations or yeast generations?
People generations.
People generations. That's
you divide this. It's a constant living organism that grows and that you are supporting. It's microbial in nature. You do have to feed it so that it can be maintained. So there are sugars or malts or things that you give the microbial community depending on the kind of starter that you have. There's not just sourdough starters.
Microbial community.
Yeah, it's an ecosystem. Yes, you got microbes. And so like people talk about, the sourdough in San Francisco, it's special because of the microbes. And there have been studies that have been done that have shown that the microbes in the Bay Area, because of the fog and all this, they're different in the starters and in the breads that are made in the Bay Area than they are in the Central Valley, than they are on the East Coast or in Italy, for example. However, we know the microbes are essential to the taste of the bread that comes out. However, these researchers and North Carolina State University, Erin McKenney, who's an assistant professor of applied ecology there. So I love this. She's applying ecology to sourdough bread, which I think is just awesome. She says our new work focuses on the role that different types of flour play in shaping the microbial ecosystems. And so what they found in their work is that the flour that's used, it's not just the microbes, the flour that's used to feed the starters determines which bacteria live in that starter ecosystem and thrive. And that influences the aroma or the flavor that a sourdough produces. So in this story, what they've done, they created 4 sourdough starters. They had 10 different flours, so they had 40 different starters altogether. They had 5 flours, including gluten, unbleached all-purpose flour, red turkey wheat, emmer, rye, and einkorn. 5 gluten-free flours, teff, millet, sorghum, buckwheat, and amaranth. And the starters were kept in the same environment and fed once a day for 14 days. Did you know you have to feed your starters like every day? It was one of the things. It's like a plant. And I had a starter at one point as a child, and it died because I just couldn't. I let it grow for a couple of days, and I was like, take it away. I can't keep it alive. It was like the early Tamagotchi or whatever.
Yeah.
Dead. It's really
That's
good.
the way I've
keep my
always
cats
been
alive.
with like starters, kombucha, plants, cats. It's just, feed them every day. Come on, that's too much.
So they started them out with the same starter. Then they added the different flours, and so they were measuring pH and how much growth the community, so the height of the starter, and recorded the aromas that were there. They did barcode sequencing for the bacteria, and they discovered that even though they started similarly, they were very different by the end of 14 days. And they found they had different microbial communities. They had different nutritional components because of those microbes being able to take advantage of different types of nutritional components in the flour. And so there were all these different things happening. And so they said in their research, amaranth sourdough produces an aroma that smells almost exactly like ham. Which I think that's great. Rye produces a fruity aroma. Buckwheat has an earthy smell. And they found that rye flour fostered way more bacteria than any other kind of flour, with 30 types at maturity. And then buckwheat was the next. They've 7 of the 10 flours included high levels of bacteria producing acetic acid. Anyway, there's all sorts of stuff in this study, which is just really interesting because it can influence the way that bakers address their baking of breads and doughs and what they're creating, specifically when they are including fermentation and microbes in that equation. And there are probably lots of people who have this in knowledge just internally because they've been doing it for so long, and probably there are bakers out there who are like, duh, of course amaranth sourdough smells like ham, But I think this kind of work is very, very interesting because it gives us a lot of information about the succession of biological ecosystems and communities, and it tells us more about the food that we eat as well.
It would also be interesting to this was fascinating actually to learn that the food is going to determine a sort of evolutionary biome within that starter. It'd be also interesting to compare globally. Like you were talking about how like around the world there's different kinds, and San Francisco's got this, Italy over here's got that, and just see if how diverse these starter groups are.
They're very diverse. Work that has been done has shown a lot of variation from place to place around the country, and especially with some of these grandmother starters that have been handed down between generations of families. There's some interesting stuff in there. So for all you sourdough people out there, enjoy. This is an open access article too, so if you're into the science of what they did and how they did it, you can find it on PeerJ. We will have the link on our website. There's a lot more to dig into, and they help you know how to make your own starter, which is very cool. You too can make starter and hopefully not kill it like I did. Oh, good gracious. This is This Week in Science. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode. We are glad that you are here with us, and we hope that you'll be back again next week. Oh, wait, no, we're not done with the show yet, but this show happens on a weekly basis, and that is all thanks to you. Yes, you out there. You help keep this show going. If you head over to our website, twis.org, you'll find 2 different ways that you can help us out. You can go to our Zazzle page, which has merchandise, cool stuff that we've made through the years. You can, any purchase gives money back to us so that we get some royalties there and are able to put that towards the show. Additionally, we are a Patreon supported show, which is you, the listeners, being patrons of the show. You can click on the Patreon link, join that community, and choose your level of support. So $10 and more per month, we will thank you by name at the end of the show. $15 and more per month, you get some stickers, and then and we thank you by name. And then I think there's t-shirts involved at different levels. There's all sorts of stuff. You help every week. I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you for being here. All right, so we should now come on back to some more This Week in Science with Dr. Kiki's Bird Corner. Tweet, tweet. I'm going to talk about birds going off course. You think about birds going off course when they're migrating, usually with respect to things like hurricanes or massive weather systems that might push them off course. But that is not always the case. And in fact, some people have at the University of Michigan have done some work they just published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences correlating space weather anomalies with differences in long-distance migration.
Okay. So, what? What kind of space anomaly? Like,
yes.
what are the birds? Are they even from this planet? What's going on?
What's going on? Are birds even real? Oh, yeah. I'm going to jump into that one a little bit. Yeah, so we know that birds, we talked about it a lot on the show, researchers trying to figure out how they navigate using the magnetic field of the Earth. And we've gone through all sorts of ideas through the years, and now they're pretty sure there are these quantum effects in the retina of the bird eye, and it's much more interesting and complex than we ever thought.
Yeah.
But it's very sensitive to shifts in magnetic fields. What would shift the magnetic field of the Earth that could possibly affect these birds migrating at night?
Earthquakes? Wait, no, you said space anomaly.
Space anomalies, yes.
Oh, chat room got it.
Space
Hard drive.
with-
Sun flare.
Sun flares, yeah. So this research determined that solar flares, big ones that bust out and come into contact with our magnetic field, impact the migration of these animals. And they found over time that there was a disruption in the number of birds that migrated during these periods of time when solar flares were impacting the magnetic field of the Earth. There was a 9 to 17% reduction in migrating birds, and those that did migrate didn't do it as well, especially when it was overcast and they didn't have other stars and other visual cues to be able to look at, to be able to help their migration. So it's pretty an interesting study using some very interesting methods to be able to kind of dive into this idea of how animals on the planet can be impacted pretty seriously by the solar system. Not just, a storm here on the planet or people or, whatever. the sun, solar flares impact magnetic field. Those impact the birds. If the birds aren't migrating when they're supposed to migrate, they're going to not end up where they're supposed to end up. They're going to miss chances to reproduce. They're going to miss food sources. If they don't leave at the right time, they might not end up at the reproductive site at a good time to be able to find a mate. Like, it's really going to impact birds' reproductive success over time. But apparently, they have this magnetic migration that they use. So it's successful most of the time because solar flares are not an all the time thing, causing them problems often enough to impact them through natural selection and other evolutionary effects. So I don't know, it impacts them. And what makes one bird go, yeah, I can make it? It's kind of like my GPS is a little wicky-wacky, but I can do it. It's fine. And another bird just goes, nah, I'm going to stay at home. I'm going to wait this one out.
During a really bad rainstorm once, I heard a flock of geese flying over. And one of them was like honking, like, and it's the only time I've really felt like I could understand what a bird was saying.
Here I am. Here I am. Where are you? Here I am.
No. What I heard was, I told you it was going to be a big storm. I told you we should have flown south a week ago. But oh no, like nagging all the way. Yeah, I know.
Could have been nagging.
You're right.
It could have also just been like, hey, I'm here. You here? Hey, I'm here. We're here. I'm the leader. You hear me? We're in the rain. Okay. I don't know. You gotta do it.
I saw swans flying here in Denmark the other day. They're very weird because they have, like, goose already has a long neck. Swan's neck is even longer.
Yes.
And it just looks like they're flying with a very straight neck, rigid neck, sticking way out. And it just kind of looked like, I just imagine them being like, oh, gotta hold the neck up. Gotta hold the neck up. Gotta hold the neck up. Like it looked like exhausting watching them
I'm
fly.
sure they have adaptations to make that. They're built for it. Makes them easy. Makes it easy. Anyway, space weather, affecting birds. I love some of the methodologies that they used, not just banding birds and watching, but also using NextRad radar stations in the central flyway of the U.S. Great Plains. They decided to pick the Great Plains because it's like this huge, flat, 1,000-mile flyway from Texas to North Dakota. No mountains in the way. It's just like a big flat area. So really the birds shouldn't be getting lost or having issues there. And so, and they shouldn't have any bias from the magnetic field of the mountains or, radar off of mountains or, coastlines or other things as they're doing radar scanning. And they, saw lots and lots of birds, but not as many during the solar flares. Do you want to have another conversation about birds?
Sure.
Yeah, sure. This is Dr. Kiki's Bird Corner. Tweet. Anyway, peregrine falcons. Peregrine falcons are wonderful predators. You see them in cities often. They will be nesting on top floors of skyscrapers. They're also, they're very widespread in where they're able to live. Seem like they're pretty smart. And these researchers who just published their study, this is out of Simon Fraser University, published their study in Frontiers in Ethology. He said he has often been puzzled when watching raptors by aspects of their behavior, like they're perching or being, like, really making it evident they're present, like not hiding, just being like, hey, here I am. And there was a theoretical paper a long time ago, it was the Wolf-Mangel model, suggests that predators might use false attacks to tire out their prey or to force them into making bigger risks to get away. And nobody's really been able to show it. And so these researchers were like, let's try it with birds and peregrines. And so they, in Boundary Bay in British Columbia, Canada, they looked at big flocks of birds that are called Pacific dunlins. And these birds, they nest in flocks. They use the tide to determine where they're going to flock and how they're going to flock. And it shows they started looking at the hunting behavior of these peregrines, and they saw that the dunlins were at greatest risk of predation just before and just after high tide, and so they were flocking the most during the riskiest period. But they also use this over ocean flocking that they do. Like there are cost and benefits to when the dunlins decide they're going to flock together. Dunlins flock over the ocean. They did that on 68% of the observation days for about 3 hours a day. If they didn't, they're not flocking, so that's going to be energetically costlier, and it's not as safe. So they don't flock at night when the falcons don't hunt either. What was going on with how the dunlins were using their flocking and what the peregrines were figuring out? Well, these researchers deemed it, based on the data, that the peregrines were absolutely tiring the dunlins out and had been pushing them to take risks and to use their energy in a less effective manner, to not flock when they should be flocking, to get them away from the flock at certain times. And so the predators, the peregrines themselves, were using prominent perching and soaring. They were like coming in, giving loud calls, other signals to say that I'm here, I'm a predator, to try and change the dunlin's behavior. And so, yeah.
So it's persistence hunting.
It's persistence. It's not just, oh, the peregrines are there hanging out, waiting for the lone bird. There's actually some kind of strategy to it. Mm-hmm. There's the persistence to tiring out particular prey, getting them to make bad decisions.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, and so they think that there's probably a lot more of this, that if it were looked at with the right observations, that we might find more of these false or non-serious attacks used by predators. Like, maybe lions sometimes don't take down a prey immediately. They chase them for a while and then they go away. And they choose ways to get the prey to make a poor decision.
Yeah, I think you could see it in lions. Wolves,
the pack hunters, but
the pack hunters. There's usually one that does a chasing, with another one waiting at the other end of that chase to then join. So one's job is to kind of tire it out, and then the other one's job is to attack him. Orca are very strategic. They probably use all sorts of things like this. But that is pretty wild to see that, because we consider that like the early advanced human hunting was persistence hunting, where we would chase prey around the savannas until they just got overheated from a lack of being able to sweat, and just fell over, and then we didn't have to get into a real match with the wildebeest. You just went up and poked it after it couldn't run anymore.
I wonder how how climate change is going to impact stuff like this, like, as tidal areas change, the amount of the water that's there, the area that's safe or not safe for different species, the periods of time during seasons that are safe or not safe. They say here, so this over ocean flocking of the dunlins is safe but energetically expensive compared to traditional roosting, largely replaced. The over ocean flocking largely replaced traditional roosting in Boundary Bay as the presence of wintering peregrines rose during the 1990s. And so there's this predator prey interaction as well. And so what we want to see is, over time, how are the dunlins going to shift their behavior, or will they shift their behavior according to the peregrine impact? So there's interesting questions here. Peregrines, or predators, using false attacks. How do prey start to learn the signals of what's a false attack versus a real attack? And do they?
I think if something's it looks like it's going to eat you, you take every one of them seriously, and you play right into their hands, maybe. But what's the alternative? Just get eaten the first time? No, it's no good.
Yeah, but anyway, tactics, not just waiting for a bird to fly by. There's actually tactics going on here.
Seagulls. If you ever go to a beach where there's always people, or a park where there's seagulls, there's always people. Here, not far from where I'm at right now, is the Copenhagen Zoo. And when there's certain places there where if you order food, they will warn you about the seagulls when you're getting your food, because they will swoop down and grab food out of the hands of the patrons of the zoo who are getting their snacks there.
Yeah.
They become very aggressive. But I think they're just doing attrition. They're not trying to tire people out. Although, after a while of getting dive bombed by seagulls, I'm likely to give up. I'm like, just fine, here, take this. Leave the rest for me. Let me have some of it.
Just always have yourself under an umbrella. Hide from the seagulls. Hide from the peregrines. They're all coming for us in the end. Justin, what do you want to talk about right now?
Oh, what don't I want to talk about right now? Okay, so which one first? I think because I think it was Eleanor in the chat room said something about persistence hunting is how some of us get dates still.
Ha ha.
Ha ha ha. Well, persistence dating is a thing in the frog world.
Do tell.
This is a new study that shows, contrary to previous assumptions, female common frogs can reject males and have developed a variety of mate avoidance behaviors to do so. This is a study that is published in the open access journal, Royal Society Open Science. It says here, explosive breeding species of frogs or toads are those with a very short reproductive period, breeding that is limited to just sometimes a few days or weeks in early spring. During these points of time, hundreds or thousands of the animals may gather in a pond. Now, females have to be old enough to breed, so they're not often able to breed every year. But the males still gather at the pond every year, and the males outnumber the dating males outnumber the dating females by a large margin. So the males are not very choosy, apparently. They will persistence cling to anything that moves. This is from this article I'm reading. They will cling to anything that moves with great vigor. Not me. This is this article I'm reading, but it's fantastic. This is the best written article. Where is this from? Justine Steiner of the Leibniz Association, which I found via phys.org. This is well written. If another male is caught, he will give a release call to indicate the mistake to the grabbing male.
Mistake was made.
Yeah. It was previously thought that the females in these spawning aggregations could not defend themselves against male coercion. But it is not uncommon for many males to cling to a single female and form a mating ball. And this can lead to death of the female. Nature's bad. So, the most common behavior used by females to escape the male's grip was to turn around her axis. The researchers also observed females uttering two different calls that mimic the male release call.
Oh, that's a good one. Oops.
And then...
You made a mistake. I made a mistake. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And then...
I must have made a mistake.
The final, most astonishing behavior that they witnessed was tonic immobility.
Just freezing.
Feigning death.
Yep.
Female stiffly extends her arms
Rigor
and legs
mortis.
away from their bodies and remains immobile until the male releases them. So now I'm curious to know if previous observations of female frogs dying during these mating events were mistaken. If it was actually they were witnessing this effect that's just now being reported in this study and just assumed
Thought the female was dead. Yeah.
Also fell for it. Yeah, also were fooled. But yeah, one way a female frog tells a male frog she's not interested in him, pretending to be dead.
I mean, it's a good signal.
In
any animal species,
if you just
one person
extrapolate that
feigning death usually means
to humans. Like you go, hey, there's a nice looking lady. I'll go and talk to her. And you go over, and then just all of a sudden they're like, ugh! You're like, oh no, they died. Oh gosh, I better go back to my end of the bar. I guess it's too bad that they're dead. And then later you see them walking around talking to some fella, and you're like, wait a minute.
I thought you were dead. What? You're not dead? It's
All right.
amazing.
My last story of the night. CDC study on depression and mortality
Okay.
finds that wealth, exercise, and smoking reduce risk of death for those with severe depression. So this is a study by the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Not a likely one of those groups that you're going to find being lobbied by big tobacco, big socialism, or big exercise. The study looked at participants from 2005 to 2018. They had 23,694 participants, mean age of 44.7. Depressive symptoms were assessed using a patient health questionnaire that is a validated screening instrument for measuring depressive symptoms. And they delved into some of the numbers. Largely, they were looking at the connections between major depressions and heart health. What they found was mild depressive symptoms were found in nearly 15% of participants, while moderate and severe depression symptoms were common as 7.2%. For all-cause mortality, that's one of those catch-alls that it just says that somebody died. The adjusted base model found mild depressive symptoms were associated with a hazard ratio of 1.42. Basically, that's like 42% increase, I guess, in the rate of death or how quickly death comes about. compared to those with no depressive symptoms. So just even mild depressive symptoms had a big effect. Moderate to severe had a base level hazard ratio of 1.78. So more likely to, almost twice as likely to die, and I would assume a 10-year period. Because it doesn't say it here. So for one of the things they found is like, yes, the cardiovascular disease mortality was higher for those with severe depression. Heart health was definitely there was increases in risk of heart attack or heart disease. Moderate severe depressive symptoms had a hazard ratio of 2.21 when correlated with stroke. So big correlations found there between negative heart health and depressive symptoms. One of the things they accidentally found is that lifestyle factors like smoking, physical activity, sleep health were identified as important mediators. Now they mentioned smoking there as a mediator of the association between depressive symptoms and mortality, but they don't go into it in the description. But in the data, what was wild is that, unlikely to be recommended, of course, but smoking caused the most significant reduction in mortality from all causes in both the mild and moderately severely depressed groups based on all of the different things that they had looked at. So this is still 1.65 hazard ratio, which is versus the control group, which is still high, but it's lower than the base rate of 1.78 for those all cause of those with the severe depression. So it did reduce by like 10% the chance of death of all cause for those who are severely depressed.
Yeah.
Followed by physical activity. So just barely 1.67 versus 1.65. But exercise was less protective to the severely depressed.
I think
better than doing nothing, but not as
Yeah.
good as smoking. So if you do both, which I don't know if they have that group,
Both, it's gonna be.
basically go work out and then go smoke cigarettes,
Yeah.
you might be fine. Or die of something else, maybe cancer.
We all die of something eventually, but
The study
Yeah.
suggests that addressing depressive symptoms and associated risk factors could be important for reducing the burden of depression and its impacts on mortality. The other thing that was found here, also, huge correlation across all groups, was the association of depression, mortality, and level of poverty.
yeah,
The
that makes
greater
most
the
sense.
poverty level, the more likely you were to have heart problems in the depression group and to die of all causes. So while the CDC is sort of saying, like, you know, the study suggests that addressing depressive symptoms and associated risk factors could be important for reducing the burden of depression and its impact on mortality. But, you know, then, like, okay, how do you handle the depression-related mortality data of income inequality? As a
Confounding
public
factor,
health initiative,
Yeah.
we need to eliminate income inequality. Well, yeah, it's obvious.
Or
It's
make sure that-
obvious. but-
everybody gets good basic universal health care. There
Yeah.
we go.
And doctors should prescribe smoking to the depressed patients.
No, that
It's
is
going to
prob-
be,
No,
it could save their life.
It's self-medication. It's
Better than exercise.
I see you finding this in here. Individual scores. Yes.
Individual scores? What do you mean?
Well, I'm looking at here.
You had to pull up the data. Like, Justin
I'm looking
can't
at
be right.
I'm looking at
Yeah.
the data.
Yeah, Justin can't be right.
Yes. No.
Because it's no. Like, I read it and I like had to reread it because, like, no,
Right,
am I
so-
reading it wrong?
Okay, so this table here is just characteristics across
That's
depressive
just who was in the
symptoms.
study. That's meaningless.
Yeah. But characteristics across depressive symptoms, there's
It's the
heavy
next.
alcohol
It's the next
use is very related to it. Antidepressant use is related to depression. Nicotine exposure has a, let's see, 1.77 is the ratio compared to something like, I don't know, I think alcohol use is something like 51.
Yeah, alcohol use turns out to be really bad
Alcohol use is
for
pretty
being
bad.
depressed.
But so that one is just is the
That's just so how many that's the cohort. Details.
That's the cohort. Let's see, all.
But then that gets all normalized
I guess,
all this year and waited for the next table. The next table is the one you need to look at.
Okay, here we are. Okay, I'm going to share this tab instead for everybody.
This is the one.
Let's zoom into this one. This is depressive symptoms for death from all cause. And you have variables.
That's by the ages. Now
yeah,
go down by the
So-
associations. So it's
Yes.
a little further down.
So we're going to go down. So diabetes, poverty index.
And actually, I didn't even mention diabetes. Actually, having diabetes
is not
for whatever reason made you less likely to die of heart problems from related to depression.
Yeah. True that. Yeah. But yeah,
keep going down.
is-
I think
poverty
it's a
is
little further.
big. This
Poverty
one-
is huge. Look at poverty. Poverty is killing people.
Yeah, it is.
And this is death of all cause. I would
All-cause
assume that the
mortality,
suicide rate would
2.0.
actually be higher
Yeah.
amongst wealthy
Yeah.
people who are depressed. Because I figure if you're like depressed and
Let's
rich,
get into this data.
you're like, nothing will make this better. But if you're poor and depressed, you'd be like, it's because I'm poor. If I win the lottery, everything will be fine. Did you find it? Did you? Oh wait, you skipped away.
There's so many different tables here.
Is there a third table? Maybe it's on the third table. Maybe I was confused.
Here we
This
got
is the one. This is the one where they've got the base rates at 1.7
base model
plus tobacco.
plus whatever it is. So the variable plus alcohol use, and it increases it by 0.78. Mediating effect, 3.27. Base model and smoking is similar to alcohol.
No, it's better. Look at it. It's 1.65.
1.65, a little bit less.
It's the lowest. It's the lowest on the
12.
list. It's
Then
lower
we've got
than exercise.
Physical activity, 1.67. Yeah, you're right there.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I know. I know the
health.
CDC did
gotta
not
get to
mean
sleep.
to put.
1.67 for sleep health.
Yeah.
It's there.
Yeah.
Smoking or poor sleep. It's all there. All cause mortality. Fascinating.
Yeah.
I think this is fascinating. I think there's something going on there that's self-medication or something psychosocial that's potentially interlinked with other factors. But so many things are.
Well, I think part of what it would be having been a smoker is that it's indistinguishable. A nicotine fit, like needing nicotine, is indistinguishable from being hungry, being upset. You're just like, I'm depressed, or I'm hungry. No, I just need to smoke. And then you go do that and you think, okay, now I've done that. And then you feel like a little nicotine So nicotine actually doesn't make you feel good. It takes away pain. It takes away the nervous pain that the nicotine dependency creates. It's a cyclical
nicotine
thing.
causes it also.
Yeah. It causes it. Yes, it's a horrible treadmill of nervous system paralysis and waking up and then being over agitated and then getting knocked down again. But it's, I think, maybe distracting from other things.
Yeah, maybe there's stress relief in it. Maybe there's other stuff that's
stress
going
relief
on.
and stress cause, but it focuses it on the cigarette. So even if you're stressed about real life things, for a moment, it's all about that nicotine, and then it takes your mind off of the other thing.
It's still not
look
good.
over here.
It's still not good. It is
linked
with all-cause
bring back up.
mortality.
Did we just not look at a chart that showed that it saves lives under the right condition?
No, it is higher than base level mortality. It's bad.
Lower.
It's
lower.
increasing mortality.
No, go back. It's lower.
No, that's
than
not how
the
it
base
works.
level of the depressed. You're saying compared to non-depressed.
Yes.
Yeah, just don't be depressed. You could go say that.
Okay.
But if you are severely depressed.
Nope. This is data, and yes, it's data, but I'm not giving any recommendations to people. Disclaimer. Please speak to your doctors. And yes, this is data, but I haven't had time to dig into this enough and think about it enough, but I'm sure other people smarter than me are. If you're depressed, please get help from a doctor. Please get help from a therapist. Please find ways to treat your depression. Additionally, if we could impact poverty, that would have a huge impact on all of the above. So
I get it if it wasn't the CDC's own study in a cohort of 26,000 people that we would be like, well, more research needs to be done. Well, it always does. But
I'm not
it's there in the data.
But
it's there in their data.
It's in the data, but we are not the people to give recommendations.
No, but we would be.
Go look at the data and wait for
we would be if exercise was the best one. We'd be like, so there it is. Everybody go out and exercise. We'd have no problem recommending people go exercise.
Bad sleep was bad also. So go get some sleep. Yeah.
And
it's getting to that time.
You had no second thoughts.
I know. I did that just because, Justin. Jeez. And also, we need to move on to the last study of the night. It's not about smoking, although sometimes you might smell cigarette odors wherever you are.
That's why it's also not worth it.
Sometimes, maybe not. But anyways, some researchers just published in Frontiers in Psychology this last week on their study to see how odors influence color perception. And so we've talked about these interesting sensory abilities where some people see sounds, or like when they see a number, they see they
think of a number, they associate a color with
so they've got these linked associations, and that is like an extra ability of what our sensory system normally does, because we're constantly taking in all sorts of sensory information. Our brain has to parse it, but at the same time, these things do become inextricably linked in certain ways. Mm-hmm. And so these researchers were like, all right, let's see how sensory integration is intertwined when it comes to odor and color. They did a really interesting experimental setup where they put people in a room that had an air filter going on in it for a very long time to neutralize the scent of the room, and they had them sit at a desk, and the job of the people in this study was to sit in the room, and they were shown a neutral gray square on the screen, and after they'd sat there for a little while in an unscented room just looking at this neutral gray square, then they're like, the researchers diffused an odor into the room, and they had a number of odors that they diffused into the room: caramel, coffee, peppermint. There were a bunch of different things. People weren't allowed to have any deodorants or perfumes, and they couldn't be colorblind, so Blair couldn't have been involved in this study. And they couldn't also have an impaired sense of smell. This had to be people who could smell well and could see colors in a regular, fairly well-defined way. They also used cherry, lemon, and odorless water, and they used this ultrasonic diffuser for 5 minutes to make the room smell that way. And then the participants had to look at this screen with the color on it that was gray, and they had to adjust the color so that it's neither red nor green nor yellow nor blue. They had to change the color of the gray to make it neutral gray, to keep it neutral gray after they were smelling whatever the room was diffused with. And people's perception of neutral gray changed with the odors that were in the room. And so they found that coffee smells were more on the reddish end of things. Caramel was more yellowy. Lemon was actually a little less yellowy than caramel. Peppermint, they said, was a weird one and kind of like in the middle of everything. And people weren't really associating one thing or another with peppermint.
Well, does that mean that the peppermint people got it right? Like they were the
right smell.
Like peppermint actually clears the mind from biases and allowed the participants to get as close to the actual neutral gray as
they could.
Experiment.
Yeah. So, but it's fascinating. So when they mapped these results also onto a 360-degree color chart, they were really able to see the influence of these odors on the way people see color. So it's kind of, I think this is an interesting thing to add to, the way that we engage with our environment and how we perceive it based on experiences we've had with well-known odors, like the smells of things in the kitchen, or just being able to, think of that morning cup of coffee and how it makes you look at the sunrise, or I don't know. I'm also thinking of people who work in color theory and maybe work on computer screens and do color matching and try to adjust colors while they're drinking cups of coffee or are, I don't know, eating a lemon pie. But we have so much individuality when it comes down to it for the way that we perceive so many things. This adds one more layer of interest because it shows that there is not just the color, but it's also the interaction between the colors and your environment, the smell, the things that are going on.
So what I would like, this was cool. I like the way they did this study with the finding neutral gray. That was pretty well thought out.
Yeah, it's not matching the color, but it's just keep the gray neutral. Make sure this gray is neutral. Yeah.
So what I don't understand how they're manipulating it where you had it already on the screen and then keep it neutral by changing it.
They presented the screen to them then, and it was I'm sorry, I read that wrong. That's on me. Presented with a screen that showed a square filled with a random color, and then they had to change from the random color to neutral gray.
That makes sense.
Yes.
Okay. So that's really cool. I would have also liked to see a version of the study just for fun, even if we learned nothing from it, where people try to match a color to the smell. So here's a smell. Oh, that's banana. Does everybody go right to yellow?
Or
that's coffee. Does everybody try to make a brown color? Like, do you just try to match the thing that you think it's of? Or or get into a little bit more like, what is the smell of this herb versus that one? Like, I don't know. It'd be kind of a fun. I might have to do my own experiment.
You might have to. But yeah, so the researchers say they need to know the degree to which odors influence color perception. This is just, a first step, really. the effect shown here is still present for less commonly encountered odors, or is it present for less commonly encountered odors, or for odors that you're just encountering for the first time? Does your brain have already something kind of set up in there, or is it all because of experience that
So
we're able to do this cross modality?
yeah, that's kind of the problem, is that there is a basis for wanting to make something maybe on the green spectrum or the yellow spectrum. If it's a lime or a lemon, like I can see there's biases in having a visual representation of whether that smell is coming from, or a connection there. What if they did this with sound? What is the color of the sound?
Color. Yeah.
So
And-
like there's all sorts of interesting ways you could experiment with that cross modality.
And there's been so much that's been looked at with these specific individuals who have like the extra specific sensory crossovers, but just for the
Extra
average
ESP?
person.
Extra sensory perception? Is that what we're talking about now?
No, I'm forgetting what the word is.
But is that
yeah.
Can I ask this, because like they don't share the same thing though. It's not like everybody's number 4 is red, or is
Right.
it? Like
No,
there's a
synesthesia.
diversity.
Thank you, Fada. Yes, synesthesia. That's what synesthesia is uncommon, but there's got to be a range of certain cross-modal commonalities. That's all. Yeah.
Like there's one person's synesthesia all in pastels, and another one is all in like.
Oh yes,
I don't know.
They're different. They're all different.
Yeah.
They're
okay.
all It's not all the same. People are different for sure. Yeah, we're all different. But colors, they are warped by the things we smell. So that to me now, I'm like looking around. I'm like, whoa, how does my orange drink make me perceive the colors on the computer screen? What is happening now?
I love how you say coffee and sunset or sunrise there. It is nearly 7 a.m. where I'm at.
Fantastic.
And it is pitch dark outside.
Almost sunrise.
And I've already had 3 cups of coffee. So I don't know what I think the sunrise might be associated with a nap soon.
That would be a great thing. And so on that note, what is the odor and the color of nap? I don't know. I don't know. That's individual as well. Have we done it? Have we made it to the end?
We have. There's just one thing I wanted to say. This is not a study we covered tonight, but people should go look for it. And a proof of concept, they CRISPR engineered chickens to be flu-proof.
I saw this one. Actually chose not to bring it because I didn't want to get into the details of it, but I think this is a good one. Yeah.
This is because we've been having these bird flu mass chicken calls.
Yep.
And if it wasn't for chicken, I think I'd be a vegetarian just about. Well,
chickens are a big part of the bird flu.
Good to eat. It's like eating a little dinosaur.
I am perfectly happy with the idea of a genetically modified chicken. It is not going to get the flu, and then it's safer for everyone. Until the flu just figures a way around that.
Until it turns out that then they can harbor them, and even though they don't get sick, they can continue to spread them. And we should look at this. Anyway.
Look into it more. Yes. I hope you all stay flu-proof. All right, we've done it. Thank you all for joining us. I really am glad that you are here with us this week and every week. Thank you to our chat rooms. Thank you, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Discord. Thank you for being here and chatting. Thank you to Aaron Lore and Gord and others who keep the chat rooms good places. I saw Fada working on keeping it a nice, happy place over in the YouTubes. Thank you, Fada, also for your help on social media, show descriptions, and the work that you do there. Identity 4, thank you for recording the show. Rachel, thank you for editing the show. And thank you, as always, to our Patreon sponsors. Thank you to Arthur Kepler, Craig Potts, Marie Gertz, Teresa Smith, Richard Badge, Bob Coles, Kenton Northcote, Rick Loveman, George Corris, Pierre Velazarb, John Ratnaswamy, Carl Kornfeld, Chris Wozniak, Vegard Shefstad, Donathan Styles, a.k.a. Don Stylo, Ali Coffin, Reagan Shubru, Sarah Forfar, Don Mundus, P.I.G., Stephen Alberon, Daryl Myshak, Stu Pollack, Andrew Swanson, Fredus 104, Sky Luke, Paul Ronovich, Kevin Reardon, Noodles, Jack, Brian Carrington, David E. Youngblood, Sean Clarence Lamb, John McKee, Greg Riley, Mark Hessenflow, Steve Leisman, a.k.a. Zima, Ken Hayes, Howard Tan, Christopher Rappin, Richard, Brendan Minish, Johnny Gridley, Remy Day, G. Burton, Lattimore, Flying Out, Christopher Dreyer, Artyom, Greg Briggs, John Atwood, Rudy Garcia, Dave Wilkinson, Rodney Lewis, Paul, Rick Ramus, Philip Shane, Kurt Larson, Craig Landon, Sue Doster, Jason Olds, Dave Neighbor, Eric Knapp, E.O., Adam Mishkan, Kevin Parachan, Aaron Luthen, Steve DeBell, Bob Calder, Marjorie, Paul Disney, David Simmerly, Patrick Pecoraro, and Tony Steele. Thank you all for all of your support on Patreon. And if you would like your name to be on this list, please head over to TWIS.org and click on the Patreon link and become a Patreon supporter. That would really help. Yeah. On next week's show,
we will be back Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific time, broadcasting live from our YouTube and Facebook channels, as well as from twis.org/live.
oh yeah, and I'm supposed to say something else right now. Want to listen to us as a podcast? We've been podcasting for a long time. Search for This Week in Science wherever your podcasts are found, and get your friends to subscribe too. That's a huge help.
For more information on anything you've heard here today, show notes and links to stories will be available on our website, www.twis.org, where you can also sign up for newsletters or not sign up for them. The choice is yours.
It's a good choice. Everybody should have a choice. You can also contact us directly. Email Kirsten at thisweekinscience.com to reach me, Justin at twisminion@gmail.com, Blair at blairbaz@twis.org. Put TWIS in the subject line so your email doesn't get spam filtered into the middle of a ball of female frogs where the females playing dead. Not a great place to be.
Yeah, that image doesn't or does disturb you. You can hit us up on the Twitter, where we are at TWIS Science, at Dr. Kiki, and at Blair's Menagerie. We love your feedback. If there's a topic you would like us to cover or address, a suggestion for an interview, a haiku that comes through the night, please let us know.
And we're also on the Universidon, Mastodon kind of thing. I'm over on Blue Sky. There's a whole bunch of things happening right now. We'll see what's going on. But we will be back here next week, and we hope that you'll join us again for more great science news.
And if you've learned anything from the show, remember,
it's all in your head.
This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science, it's the end of the world. So I'm setting up shop, got my banner unfurled. It says the scientist is in, I'm gonna sell my advice. Show them how to stop the robots with a simple device. I'll reverse global warming with a wave of my hand. And all it'll cost you is a couple of grand. 'Cause this week's science is coming your way. So everybody listen to what I say. I use the scientific method for all that it's worth. And I'll broadcast my opinion all over the earth. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 I've got one disclaimer and it shouldn't be news. That what I say may not represent your views, but I've done the calculations and I've got a plan.
Dun, dun, dun. we have reached the after show, after show, after show. We have reached the after show. It's after the show. Justin's gone to get more coffee or something like that. And people are sending me, I don't know, chicken? I don't know. Arnlore, SMBC. Oh, breakfast cereal. Saturday morning breakfast cereal comics. When was that one? It's an old one. It is almost bedtime. I have almost bedtime. Justin has almost bedtime. Where'd he go? 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 I have news. I have news for him. I have a story. Well, not a story. I really need to go to bedtime because I'm not feeling well and I need to take care of myself more. Come on, Justin. Anyway, friends of the show. There it is. Thank you for putting that link in the Discord, Arnlar. I can't click from wherever I was. I have a text from Blair. Aha.
Oh, hi.
Hi, I have a text from Blair. She says, things are hard. So she she doesn't know when she'll be able to, between 5 and 10 p.m. is baby witching hour, which sounds about right. It's usually a difficult time around then.
Yeah.
But she said she is working on a calendar.
Oh, fantastic.
She said she might end up finishing the calendar.
Nice, because I've got 3 months figured out, and the rest I have no idea what to do with.
Anyway, she said she should know by the end of next week, maybe. So maybe I will know things soon.
Okay.
And she can't wait to make an appearance, hopefully soon.
That would be nice. We miss her very much.
We missed the Blairs. Yes, so that whole conversation last week, who knows? Maybe she'll need your 3 pieces of the puzzle, but
they're not
knows?
made. They're just,
I didn't know she was working on a calendar. That's crazy.
They're not made. They're just I'll do the 2025. I'll start working now.
Yes.
I can make one a month. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, so that's some good news there. I don't know what the timing is going to be in the future with the baby and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, we definitely, the hosts need to sit down and have conversations about how things are going to keep going.
Yeah,
Blair's gonna
it's about to get crazy.
Yeah, things gonna get crazy.
Starting very soon, actually.
Yeah.
We might have to switch the time of the show for a little while.
Yeah, we don't know. It's possible.
Because
yeah,
I'm
we'll
going to
see.
be occupied at this time for about 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, something like that.
Yeah.
Starting November. Oh gosh, starting in like 3
It's
weeks.
like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So it's coming.
Yeah.
We got to talk soon.
It's coming. I don't know what we're gonna do. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Blair and a baby. Getting
We need to have.
I don't know what's happening, and I
think
a
what we
cold
need
and I need to go to bed.
Is a 4th co-host. Okay, go to bed. Say goodnight, Dr. Kiki.
And Laura, I love it. Yeah, let's do a when to meet. When can all of the, what's the best time for all of the, oh, and Laura, that's fantastic. Yeah, we'll do when to meet. We'll figure out what's the best time for all of the fans of the show. No, we're not making any changes yet, but
Nope.
we just
I'm
always
announcing
want to.
the changes that aren't being made yet.
Yeah, we're just saying.
Or decided on, or
we haven't decided on anything. Something has to be decided. I don't know what yet, but so yeah, we're gonna have.
Put the horse before the cart. Although, can I just say, doesn't the horse belong
Mary.
before the cart? Before the cart, like if you put it after the cart.
Don't put the cart before the horse.
If you put the horse after the cart, then what's it supposed to push? Doesn't make any sense.
Don't put the cart before the horse is the saying.
Yeah, you don't put the you never don't put the horse before the cart is what they say. Isn't it? No, they say it the other way. Oh, I just misunderstood the analogy.
You got it totally backward. Because why would
Oh
you
no, yeah.
put...
Don't
Why
put
would
the
you
cart
put the
before the horse. Well, you put it after. Yeah, no, that's the thing. You put the cart after the horse, and then the horse has to push the cart. That's what I'm saying. I messed it up into my telling you what was wrong with it, but it's still wrong.
It's still we don't want to do it.
Still wrong. You don't. If you put the cart before the horse, I don't know.
Yeah. And Mary Gertz, it's definitely possible that you've been listening to us since about 2006. We've been podcasting for that long for sure. So I'm glad that you're with us here. That's pretty awesome.
Totally rad.
Totally radical. Oh my gosh.
As we would have said in the early 2000s.
Yeah, talking with my child now.
I think that's how people talked back then.
Kai lets me know about like the new lingo, and he's like, he says things sometimes. I'm like, I don't even know what that meant. He goes, okay, let me break it down for you. And so now he is like my translator.
Nice. Oh,
It's
fantastic.
awesome. I have to say, there is something to be said for this young generation and the words they're using. It's all memeified. So because everything's on meme culture, they encapsulate like entire feelings and whole
Forget
concepts
emojis. You need to know
like
the
one
concept
word
behind a 4-second meme.
Yeah, no. You have to know the background of like everything, and then it's really fascinating to me. So
Yeah.
Anyway, I do need to go to bed because I need my sleep. I need the rest. All I want to do right now is sleep. I'm propped up on cold pills and tea at the moment. Shaka, brah. What?
Shaka when the walls fell. Yes, I actually unfortunately know exactly which Jean-Luc Picard talking in Shaka when the walls fell. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Oh gosh. This is like one of the most hilariously bad episodes of Star Trek ever. It is like comical.
Bad ones out there.
That is like
comical.
Thank you for that, Paul. Oh gosh.
His arms open. Hello, Kira. Just as we are saying goodnight, I'm going to say good morning, Justin.
Good morning, Justin. Say good night, Dr. Kiki.
Good night, Kiki. Good night, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another TWIS episode. We hope that you'll be back again next week. Tell your friends to come. We'll have some party snacks. I don't know. We'll all have a nice time. Stay safe. Stay happy. Stay healthy, lucky.
Stay lucky.
Stay lucky.
Always bet on the coin side that's starting up.
So, if it starts heads, bet on heads. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week.